What if the most iconic family in TV history didn't teach you anything, except how not to live? In 1987, Married with Children burst onto American screens like a bowling ball through a stained glass window, shattering every wholesome sitcom rule in sight. There were no life lessons, no tender hugs, and definitely no feel-good endings. Just one bitter shoe salesman, his leopard print-loving wife, two disaster-prone kids, and the kind of jokes that made parents reach for the remote and then secretly laugh when no one was looking. Love and marriage? More like loathing and sarcasm. Married with Children didn't just entertain, it offended, provoked, and built an entire network's identity along the way. Whether you watched it religiously or were told not to, the Bundys left a stain on pop culture that no amount of scrubbing can remove. Like this nostalgic deep dive? Hit that subscribe button before Peg makes you do chores. 1. The housewife who accidentally made the show famous. Sometimes outrage makes better marketing than $1 million ad campaign. In 1989, Married with Children became front-page news, not because of ratings or awards, but because of one furious viewer, Michigan housewife Terry Rakolta. Rakolta tuned into the episode Her Cups Runneth Over and saw more than just Al Bundy's usual crude jokes. She saw what she called obscenity. She launched a crusade to get the show pulled from the air, calling it unfit for television and damaging to American families. She organized letter-writing campaigns, pressured advertisers, and made the talk show circuit with righteous fury. But her crusade had the opposite effect. Public curiosity exploded. Viewership doubled. Sponsors briefly wavered, but Married with Children became a headline-grabbing sensation. Fox even moved it to a later time slot, then leaned into the controversy hard. Rakolta had broken through, thanks to their most reluctant fan. 2. The original kids were recast. When Married with Children premiered, the Bundy family seemed like a chaotic match made in sitcom heaven. But in the original unaired pilot, something felt off. The kids, Kelly and Bud, were played by Tina Caspary and Hunter Carson, a duo that lacked the spark and dysfunction needed to sell the Bundy brand. Producers quickly realized the chemistry wasn't working. The jokes fell flat. The timing was off. Even Ed O'Neill admitted the original kids felt more like hired help than actual family. Enter Christina Applegate and David Faustino. She nailed Kelly's airheaded sass, and he brought Bud's loser energy to life with just the right amount of desperation. The dynamic clicked instantly, and so did the laughs. The recast worked so well, most fans don't even know that first pilot exists. But somewhere, in bootleg VHS purgatory, the original Bundy kids still haunt TV history with their awkward delivery and forgettable haircuts. 3. Al Bundy's football glory wasn't fiction. Al Bundy's most legendary claim, scoring 4 touchdowns in a single high school game, wasn't just sitcom nonsense. It was rooted in real life. Ed O'Neill, long before becoming TV's favorite shoe-selling burnout, was a legitimate football star. He played defensive line at Ursuline High School in Youngstown, Ohio, and earned a football scholarship to Ohio University. Later, he transferred to Youngstown State and even signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sure, he got cut during training camp, but that's still a better stat than selling 1 pair of pumps a week at Gary's Shoes. So, when Al relived his glory days in Polk High's jersey, there was real pride behind the sarcasm. It wasn't just a joke, it was O'Neill's nod to the career that almost was. And if high school heroics weren't enough, he later earned a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So yes, the guy who lived on the couch could also choke you out cold in under 30 seconds. Respect the Bundy. 4. Bud Bundy's real-life rap ambitions. On screen, Bud Bundy dreamed of rap glory as Grandmaster B, a delusional alter ego with a backwards cap and zero street cred. But off-screen, that wasn't entirely a joke. actor David Faustino actually tried to make it in hip-hop, for real. In the early 90s, Faustino released a full rap album under the name D-Lil. Yes, really. The album, titled Ballistics, featured tracks like You Know What's Up and I Told Ya. Spoiler alert, no one told Billboard. The album flopped hard, landing in bargain bins faster than one of Peg's meatloaf dinners. Still, Faustino wasn't done. He co-founded a real nightclub on the Sunset Strip, also called Ballistics, which briefly became a hotspot in LA's early hip-hop scene. So, while his album didn't go platinum or aluminum, his hustle was real. Grandmaster B wasn't just a punchline. It was a reflection of a very real and slightly cringe side of Faustino's life. Sometimes, art imitates life a little too closely. 5. Peg Bundy's hair was a wig and a statement. Peg Bundy's towering red bouffant was as iconic as her leopard print leggings, but it wasn't Katey Sagal's real hair. That gravity-defying masterpiece was a custom wig, and it served more than just looks. In the early seasons, Sagal actually styled her own hair to match Peg's over-the-top persona, but as the show gained popularity, producers upgraded her to a full-on, high-maintenance wig, bigger, louder, and impossible to ignore. The look became a cartoonish blend of 60s Housewife and glam rock reject. But there was strategy behind the style. Sagal, also a working musician, didn't want to be easily recognized off-set. The wig was her costume, her shield, and her transformation into Peg. Over the years, the hair got a bit sleeker, but it never lost its signature shape, or height. As Sagal once put it, Peg's entire vibe was basically drag. And honestly, no one served laziness in 4-inch heels better. 6. Katey Sagal was a rock star first. Before she was barking at Al from the couch, Katey Sagal was busy rocking actual stages with some of music's biggest legends. That's right, Peg Bundy's alter ego had legit rock star credentials. In the 1970s and early 80s, Sagal was a backup singer for artists like Bob Dylan, Bette Midler, Olivia Newton-John, Tanya Tucker, and even Debbie Harry. She toured, recorded, and lived the musician's life long before slipping into spandex and stilettos. She also released solo albums of her own, including Well in 1994, Room in 2004, and a covers album in 2013. For someone best known as a sitcom slacker, her off-screen hustle was serious. The contrast was kind of perfect. On TV, she was Peg Bundy, queen of bonbons and daytime TV. Off-screen, she was a powerhouse vocalist who could command a mic better than any sitcom script. Turns out, the only thing bigger than her hair was her resume. 7. The Griswold connection in the opening credits blink, and you'll miss it. But Married with Children quietly shares screen space with another chaotic American family, the Griswolds. In the opening credits, the traffic shot showing cars speeding down the highway wasn't filmed for the show. It was stock footage pulled straight from National Lampoon's Vacation. That hideous pea-green station wagon? Yep, Clark Griswold's family truckster, cruising right past Al Bundy's theme music. It's a strange and perfect coincidence. One family was limping across America on a disastrous road trip. The other was limping through life in suburban Chicago. Neither had much luck, and both were one flat tire away from a breakdown, literal or emotional. If you swapped Al for Clark in one episode, would anyone even notice? 8. How the show built Fox's bad boy image. Before Married with Children, Fox was just the new kid on the TV block, a fourth network with zero clout and even less identity. Then came the Bundys, and suddenly Fox wasn't just a network, it was a rebellion. Premiering in 1987 alongside the Tracy Ullman show, Married with Children, became Fox's first primetime sitcom. And unlike the polished feel-good comedies on ABC, CBS, or NBC, this show led with insults, dysfunction, and unapologetic sleaze. No hugs, no morals. just Al Bundy adjusting himself on the couch and groaning through life. It was everything the big networks were too scared to air. And that was exactly the point. Fox didn't want to play nice. It wanted to shock, to stand out, to flip the bird at sitcom tradition. Without Married with Children, it's unlikely we'd have ever seen The Simpsons, Family Guy, or any of the crude, chaotic hits that followed. Al Bundy crawled so Peter Griffin could fall down the stairs. And Fox? It finally had a personality, gritty, loud, and gleefully offensive. 9. No finale, no goodbye. After 11 seasons and 259 episodes, you'd expect Married with Children to go out with a bang, or at least a decent goodbye. Instead, it quietly limped off the air like Al after a long day at the shoe store. When Fox canceled the show in 1997, they didn't even bother to tell the cast. Ed O'Neill found out while on vacation, overheard at breakfast by strangers. Christina Applegate learned about it from friends. No send-off, no wrap party, no final bows. The last episode to air, The Chicago Shoe Exchange, wasn't written as a finale. There were no emotional arcs, no character growth, just the same sarcastic chaos as always. But maybe that was the point. The Bundys weren't built for closure. They didn't learn, grow, or hug it out. They just existed, broke, bitter, and frozen in time. And in a weird way, that abrupt ending might have been the most Bundy move of all. No tears, no goodbyes, just, we're done, and back to the couch. 10. The ever-changing Bundy address. For a family that never moved, the Bundys sure changed addresses a lot. Throughout the show's 11-season run, their house number bounced between 9764 and 9674 Jeopardy Lane, depending on the episode. Was it a continuity error? Absolutely. Did anyone care? Not really. The Bundys weren't about details, they were about dysfunction. Maybe it was just lazy writing. Or maybe, in true Bundy fashion, they were constantly being evicted and secretly moving into identical houses on the same street like a sitcom loop glitch. Either way, sending them mail was about as reliable as Bud's dating life. 11. Failed spin-offs and a sitcom universe that wasn't with Married with Children riding high, Fox thought, why not spread the Bundy magic? Spoiler, they couldn't. The most serious attempt was Top of the Heap, starring a young Matt LeBlanc as Vinny Verducci, a slick ladies' man living with his grifter dad, Charlie. It was spun off from a Bundy episode and even featured Kelly and Bud in cameos. But chemistry? Non-existent. It lasted 6 episodes before heading to sitcom purgatory. That didn't stop Fox from trying again. Vinny and Bobby gave LeBlanc another shot. It somehow made Top of the Heap look like a hit. Then came Radio Free Tremaine, a backdoor pilot featuring Bud at college. It never made it past test audiences. What Fox learned the hard way is this: you can't duplicate the Bundys. Their magic wasn't in the format, it was in Al's misery, Peg's bonbons, and a very specific kind of chemistry that didn't follow network logic. Turns out, dysfunction doesn't franchise well. 12. The British remake that bombed someone across the pond thought the Bundys could work with accents and tea. Thus, in 1996, Married for Life was born, a UK remake of Married with Children with the same dysfunctional formula, but none of the bite. Russ Abbott played Ted Butler, the British version of Al Bundy. His wife Pam and kids Nikki and Lee filled in for Peg, Kelly, and Bud. The jokes were recycled, the sets were familiar, and the charm gone. Critics panned it. The chemistry felt flat, and the show lacked the snarky soul of the original. It limped through 7 episodes before being quietly cancelled. Apparently, British audiences weren't buying what the Butlers were selling. Turns out, some brands of dysfunction just don't translate, even with proper grammar. 13. Kramer almost played Al. It's hard to picture anyone but Ed O'Neill as Al Bundy. But believe it or not, Michael Richards, yes, Kramer from Seinfeld, auditioned for the role. According to casting director Mark Hirschfeld, Richards gave a weirdo audition that didn't quite land. His energy was chaotic, unhinged, too strange even for a show about a bitter shoe salesman with no ambition. But here's the twist. That failed audition stuck in Hirschfeld's mind. So when it came time to cast Seinfeld, he remembered Richards and gave him the role that made him famous. So, in a roundabout way, Married with Children helped create Kramer. Thankfully, Richards didn't get the Bundy gig. One Al was enough. The world didn't need a version of him with Kramer's hair and flailing limbs. 14. Al and Marcy didn't get along in real life. On screen, Al Bundy and Marcy Darcy traded barbs like it was an Olympic sport. Off screen, the tension wasn't all acting. Ed O'Neill and Amanda Bearse had a famously strained relationship during the show's run. Though they remained professional, the chemistry between Al's grumbling misogyny and Marcy's fierce comebacks came with real friction behind the scenes. One sore spot was the 1989 TV Guide cover, which featured the Bundy family, but excluded Bearse and co-star David Garrison. O'Neill later admitted he regretted not speaking up about it. Bearse didn't invite him to her wedding years later, and when asked about their relationship, she replied with the thumper rule. If you don't have anything nice to say, no public blow-ups, no gossip wars. But the silence said enough. Still, their sharp back and forth on screen worked so well that fans assumed it was just brilliant acting. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it wasn't. 15. It was almost called Not the Cosbys. Subtlety was never Married with Children's strong suit, and that applied to its original working title, Not the Cosbys. Yes, that was seriously on the table. In the mid-80s, The Cosby Show was the gold standard for wholesome, moral sitcoms. The Bundys? The exact opposite. No life lessons, no loving family hugs, just insults, eye rolls, and Peg draining Al's soul one sarcastic jab at a time. Fox considered the name as a direct shot at sitcom tradition, but eventually thought better of it. Even for a rebellious new network, mocking the most beloved show on TV right in the title felt a little too on the nose. Still, the spirit of the name stuck. Married with Children became the anti-sitcom, crude, chaotic, and gleefully unwholesome. While the Huxtables solved problems with jazz and compassion, the Bundys used sarcasm, apathy, and an occasional shoehorn. If not the Cosbys had made it to air, it might have been the most honest title in TV history. Conclusion: a legacy built on insults and apathy. In a world of feel-good families and sitcom sentimentality, Married with Children flipped the script, then used it as a coaster for Peg's bonbons. It gave us a family that never learned, never grew, and never once sat down for a meaningful heart-to-heart, and somehow that made them unforgettable. From outrage-fueled fame to failed spin-offs, from real rap albums to cancellation via breakfast gossip, the Bundys weren't just characters. They were a middle finger to everything normal TV tried to be. Crude? Definitely. Offensive? Often. But forgettable? Never. They didn't ask for your approval. They demanded your attention, and got it for 11 seasons straight. So, what surprised you most? The rap career? The failed Kramer audition? Or the fact that British TV tried and immediately regretted it? Let us know in the comments, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button faster than Al can shout 4 touchdowns in one game. Until next time, keep it Bundy.